For 3 years, Eliza Whitmore lived in a house that looked peaceful from the outside but sounded like war from within. The ranch sat at the edge of a forgotten western town where dust ruled. The streets and silence buried secrets. People passing by saw a sturdy wooden home, a fenced corral, horses grazing beneath golden sunsets. They never saw the bruises hidden beneath long sleeves or the fear tucked behind careful smiles. When Eliza first married Henry Caldwell, she believed she had chosen strength. He was tall, respected, a man who spoke little but carried authority in every step. She mistook control for protection. She mistook dominance for stability. The first year, the cruelty came in whispers, insults disguised as correction, humiliation disguised as discipline. He told her she was lucky he chose her. He told her no one else would. By the second year, whispers became shoves. Shoves became strikes. Apologies came the next morning with hollow promises and cold eyes. By the third year, there were no apologies at all. Only routine, only pain, only survival. Eliza stopped looking in mirrors because she no longer recognized the woman staring back. The lively girl who once laughed freely in town gatherings was gone. In her place stood someone quiet, someone careful, someone who calculated. The sound of footsteps and the tone of breathing. Before entering a room, she learned how to read danger the way cowboys read storm clouds. And every night felt like waiting for thunder. Henry drank more as the months crawled forward. Whiskey sharpened his temper and dulled what little conscience he had left. The house became smaller, the air heavier. She often stood by the window at night, staring at the open plains, wondering how something so wide and free could exist while she felt so trapped. But fear builds invisible cages stronger than iron bars. She believed if she tried to run, he would find her. She believed no one would help. After all, no one ever had. The town respected Henry. He donated to the church. He tipped generously at the saloon. He shook hands firmly and smiled in public. Monsters rarely look like monsters in daylight. Then one evening everything shifted. It began like any other, the sun sinking low, painting the sky blood orange. Wind dragging sand across the porch. Henry had ridden into town hours earlier, already irritated. Eliza knew that look. She moved quietly, preparing supper, hoping silence would be enough. It wasn't. The door exploded open with such force it cracked against the wall. He stormed in, anger radiating off him like heat from desert rock. Accusations flew, meaningless, invented, cruel. She barely had time to respond before his hand struck her across the face. The world tilted. She hit the floor hard. This time, something inside her did not just break, it snapped awake. As he raised his hand again, a shadow filled the doorway behind him. A deep, steady voice cut through the chaos. "That's enough." Henry froze. Eliza, his heart pounded violently in her chest. Standing in the doorway was a man she had never seen before. Dust-covered boots, worn leather coat, hat tilted low, eyes calm but unyielding. He carried no badge, no symbol of authority, only presence. The kind that didn't need to shout. Henry sneered, turning. "This is private." The stranger stepped inside slowly. Not anymore. There was no tremor in his voice, no fear. And something extraordinary happened in that moment. Henry hesitated. For the first time in 3 years, someone had interrupted the storm. The cowboy's gaze shifted briefly to Eliza. He didn't stare at her bruises. He didn't pity her. He simply nodded once, as if acknowledging her existence, her worth. That simple gesture felt like oxygen after drowning. Henry lunged forward in fury, but the cowboy moved faster. The fight was short, brutal, decisive. Years of arrogance had made Henry sloppy. Years of survival had made the stranger precise. When it ended, Henry lay unconscious on the wooden floor he once ruled like a tyrant. Silence filled the room again, but it was different now. Not suffocating, not fearful. The cowboy extended a hand toward Eliza. "You don't have to stay." 4 words, simple, direct, but they shattered the prison. Walls she had built inside her own mind. She stared at his hand for a long moment, doubt wrestling with hope. Leaving meant uncertainty. Leaving meant risk. But staying meant death, if not of her body, then of her spirit. Slowly, trembling but determined, she placed her hand in his. And for the first time in 3 years, she stood up not because she was forced to, but because she chose to. That night, under a sky thick with stars, Eliza Whitmore walked away from hell. Freedom did not feel like fireworks. It felt quiet, fragile, unreal. The cowboy introduced himself simply as Cole. No last name offered. No long explanations. He had been passing through town when he heard shouting from the open window. Most men would have kept walking. He didn't. Why? Eliza asked softly as they rode away before dawn. Cole shrugged slightly. Because someone should have. There was no hero speech. No dramatic declaration. Just truth. They rode toward the next town miles away, where Henry's influence couldn't immediately reach. Eliza expected fear to chase her, expected guilt to pull her backward. Instead, she felt something unfamiliar building inside her chest. Strength. Not borrowed strength, her own. Cole never treated her like something fragile. When they stopped to rest, he handed her water and said, "You survived 3 years. Don't tell me you're weak." Those words settled deep within. Her survived, not endured, not suffered, survived. There was power in that difference. By the time they reached the neighboring settlement, sunrise painted the horizon gold. It felt symbolic, like the world itself acknowledging her new beginning. Cole helped her find lodging with a widow who needed assistance around her boarding house. For the first time in years, Eliza worked without fear of criticism. She cleaned rooms, cooked meals, greeted travelers. She began speaking louder, standing straighter, looking people in the eye. Bruises faded, but more importantly, shame faded. Weeks passed, then months. Henry never came. Perhaps pride kept him away. Perhaps the public humiliation of being beaten in his own home silenced him. It no longer mattered. One afternoon, while sweeping the porch, Eliza spotted a familiar silhouette riding into town. Her breath caught, not in fear but recognition. Cole dismounted calmly. "Just passing through," he said. But his eyes studied her carefully. She realized something profound in that moment. He hadn't saved her. He had interrupted the violence, yes. He had offered a hand, but she had been the one who chose to take it. She had been the one who walked away. She had been the one rebuilding her life piece by piece. "I'm not broken," she said quietly, more to herself than to him. Cole gave a small smile. "Never were." The town slowly learned her story, not the whispers. Henry once spread, but the truth. And instead of judgment, she found respect. Women who once avoided her began sharing their own hidden scars. Men who once praised Henry grew silent in reflection. Courage is contagious. By standing up once, she had unknowingly given others permission to do the same. One evening, months later, as the sky burned crimson and gold, Eliza stood alone watching the horizon. She thought about the girl she used to be, hopeful but naive. She thought about the woman she became, wounded but resilient. And she realized something powerful. Hell had not destroyed her. It had revealed her strength. Cole prepared to ride out again the next morning. He was never meant to stay. Some people enter your life like storms, not to remain, but to change the landscape forever. Before he left, he paused. "You'll be all right?" She nodded confidently. "I already am." He tipped his hat and rode toward the rising sun. Eliza watched until he disappeared beyond the hills. But this time, she did not feel abandoned. She felt complete. Because the real rescue was never about a cowboy riding through a door. It was about a woman remembering who she was. And as the wind moved freely across the endless plains, Eliza Whitmore finally understood freedom isn't given, it's taken. Strength isn't found, it's awakened. And sometimes, all it takes is one brave moment to change the direction of an entire life.